Hey, everybody, and welcome to Boss Talks. We have a great guest today on the show, Liz Newkirk. She is out of Charlotte, right? I believe. North Carolina area, somewhere in there. But she is the manager of digital media with Loebsack and Brownlee. And I would have never thought digital media and all that, like in correlation to what the company does, which is it's a law firm. But she'll get into exactly what type of law that they do and all that. But outside of social media and digital media and all the things that go along with her job, she's very involved in the local association with Apartment Association of Greater Charlotte, I believe is what it's called. And she's on the Supplier committee, believe still the president, if not formally the president of that committee. And I love that because I'm also pretty involved in our local association as well. So love to hear her involvement is, very strong where she is. And I know she goes beyond just her local areas too. But we'll get into all that and all the fun things that she's passionate about, including the topic of lipstick and hemlines. First of all, I'm not a fashion person. So this area is going to be a high level of education for me. And, but she's here for it and ready to bring it to me and to you because fashion is a passion of hers. But there's a lot of other things we're going to get into as well. So super excited to talk to Liz and get into all the topics. Before we do, I'm your host, Evan Happel with Community Boss, and we have some great solutions for you when it comes to managing your physical spaces of your apartment or condo or HOA community. Maybe you have some issues with parking or your amenity management or reservations or anything that has to do with your physical space. Well, we can help you. We can help you generate revenue through that, but also just bring peace to your physical space, the shared space, make people like where they live, and not be mad about parking because you know what happens then, right? They go online, they get real mad, they start saying things, they make you look bad. You don't want that. So make sure you take care of all those things and get a hold of us so we can help you out. But today it's about Liz, so let's bring her to the show.
Hi.
Liz, how are
Hello.
you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good. So do you live in Charlotte proper or is it somewhere outside of
I
Charlotte?
do. Yeah, I live in what they call Uptown Charlotte. That was a transition for me because I'm originally from Atlanta and
Okay.
every other city is like downtown or whatever.
Right.
And when I first came to Charlotte, they were like, no, it's Uptown.
What
And I
does that
was
mean?
Why? Well, apparently it's because, and I only know this because I went to Johnson C. Smith, right? This is the only way I know this. And I was a band nerd. I'm still kind of a band nerd. So when you're standing on the field, the practice field, which is the football field at Johnson C. Smith, right? Which is in Uptown Charlotte, right? You can literally see almost all of Uptown. Like it's beautiful, right? So apparently, like it's up on a mountain. It's not
Mm.
down, right? It's upwards. So like everything is kind of backwards, and I am not going to try to explain it because I will embarrass myself. Even though I've been in Charlotte since 2005, I still don't know. I use a GPS to get everywhere because I have no idea where I'm going ever. So
Got
yeah,
it. So
you know that.
but there's still there's an uptown and there's a downtown?
No, it's just uptown. It's just uptown
Okay.
Charlotte. No down anything. Just
Okay.
uptown
You know,
Charlotte.
this makes me want to learn about why these terms are used because I never have given
Yeah,
it a thought.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there was a lot of like me trying to understand like what is so it was like South End for the longest time, and it was just South End, and now there's a LoSo. And I remember somebody mentioned that one time when I was in a bar, and I was like, a what? Like, where is that? And they were like, have you ever been to South End? And I was like, yes. And they were like, well, it's lower South End. And I'm like, just stop. Like, just stop. Like, just don't do that, right? And so, but if you go to like apartment communities and stuff like that, like it'll say, welcome to LoSo. And it's
Got
like
it.
capital L, little o, capital S, little o, if you want
That
to
makes
be
sense. So
correct.
we have this area in Seattle called SODO,
Okay.
and it stands for South of Dome, because we used to have the Kingdome, which was a sports facility that the
Okay.
Mariners played at and the Seahawks played at. Well, it doesn't exist anymore. It was imploded, but it's still
Okay.
known as SODO. And it's just a term that became a thing. And it's like, just kind of funny. Like, that thing doesn't even exist anymore, but we still call it SODO. It's still an
I
area.
mean, yeah, these things happen. Oh, and for the record, I want to say this because this is the one thing that irritates me, right? So we have a place called NODA, right? That stands for North Davidson. Okay, just so you know. What
No
drives
duh.
bananas, right, is when people go no da, and I'm like, no, it's not like Tarjay, right? It's just NODA. Like, just leave it alone.
Noda.
Not no da. Don't add any flares to it. Just leave it. NODA. That's my public service announcement. That's my rant for today.
We'll see. We'll see. We're gonna get into some
It is
hot
a little
button issues.
right. You're right. I may have
Hot button issues are coming. So I don't know. There could be some other things. There could be.
there could be.
So whoever's
Mhm.
watching, make sure you participate in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from as you get on. We'd love to know where you are. But we're gonna have some fun today. So make sure you're participating, because we want to add your comments to the, if they're worthy, obviously, to the screen. So make sure you jump in on that. All right, Liz. Well, before we get into the fun stuff, we're going to ask a few questions, just my typical questions. First of all, and maybe this will, I mean, we were already getting into it about some other things regarding cars, so maybe
Oh
this
yeah.
will spur some thoughts. I don't know. But first topic is parking, and really, I want to know your thoughts about parking.
Mm-hmm.
Any stories you may have about it. Man, already the head is nodding. The some things are coming to your mind. I don't know. I want to hear about it.
I definitely have some memories about parking. So I am an apartment advocate. I live, in apartments. I'm not one of those people that has had the privilege of purchasing a home. I don't think I'm an adult enough to purchase a house. That may never happen, right? I don't think I've reached that level of adulthood,
A
but
lot of
I will say
responsibility.
it's a lot of responsibility, and it also cuts into my like potential emergency fashion budget. It's like, oh, do I buy this bag or do I replace, like my AC or my roof?
I
Like
see. I see.
I don't want to have to make those decisions. So yeah, I just
Priorities.
priorities, right? So I had some friends come over, and when they came over, like they were coming to take some stuff, from my house, my apartment, my second, like closet or whatever, to their car. Right. And I was like, well, it's before the leasing office closes, like you can park in this space. And I called the leasing office and I said, hey, your resident or your guest parking is full. Can my friend like park here? So that way she can get the stuff out of my closet. She doesn't anticipate like being there long, right? Before you all close. Sure, Miss Newkirk, not a problem. Most definitely. I was like, do I need to come get a sticker? Like, is there anything else that I need to come get? No, Miss Newkirk, you're fine. Okay. So maybe like an hour, right? Comes down and there's a boot on the car, like on the tire. And I'm like, what's going on? So I call up to the leasing office. No one's there. Everybody from the leasing office, for whatever reason, left 30 minutes early. I'm not talking about 15 minutes. I'm not talking about 5 minutes. I'm talking about like 30 minutes early, right? And so I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So I called the tow company and I said, hey, like, I know you're not going to believe me, right? But I promise you, I spoke to the leasing office and she parked there with permission from the leasing office because all of the other guest parking was like full. And he literally like threw his, I mean, I could just picture him sitting in his chair, throwing his head back and laughing, right? And he's like, sure, lady. I'm like, no, I promise you, right? And he was like, well, give me 45 minutes. We'll talk about the boot. 2.5 to 3 hours later, right? Like we leave the car, we go in the house, we come back. The car is gone.
Oh my
They
God.
towed the car. The car, poof, gone, right? Because I'm like, well, nobody could have stolen it, right? Because they had a boot on it, right? The car is gone, my guy. So I call the towing company again, and I'm like, where's the vehicle? Oh, we took it. Why? So we had to wait till the next day. The assistant manager apparently had like a family emergency, so that's why they had to leave. And so that morning I went in, told him the situation, and he was like, can you step out of my office real quick? And I could hear him yelling like outside of his door because he was so upset. It's like, why would you do this? You know what I mean? So I just paid like the $150, you know, there goes my little penny money, but you know, paid the $150 to get the car essentially out of the pound, and it never should have been there with all her stuff. So yeah, that's my parking horror story. You weren't expecting that, were you?
That's terrible. Well, let's be serious. That is literally why our company exists.
Yeah.
Like your story is why people need our software. But that's it. That's all I'm going to say about that, because what you just said is the summation as to why this is important. And you actually need to have a way to verify vehicles.
Right. It was horrid because I was like, I couldn't believe that we went from a boot that was maybe $50 to like almost $500 to get like her car out of.
And they
like
still made you pay?
So I paid the $150 because they were like, well, we need something, you know, like we're willing to waive. But I'm like, and they were arguing and going back and forth. And I was like, you know what? She needs her car. She needs to be able to get to work and finish doing what it is that she needs to do. Here's $150. I don't ever want to have to go through this again. And apparently like other people had issues with this towing company that they had used. I don't know if they use them anymore, but like after enough complaints and people start complaining online, because of course it impacts the resident experience, right? Like I don't live there now. Absolutely. I live somewhere that has a garage, you know, but yeah, like it was horrid. Could not believe that we had to go through all that just so she could get like her stuff. Like she just had some stuff at my house she just needed to get. Like that's terrible. Was it.
Okay. Can I just, all right, let's just take this example right here. Mm-hmm. If you work in property management, the proper way to handle this, when you told somebody that yes, it's okay to park there, is not to make them pay $150 to get their vehicle out of the car when it's not their fault.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She should not have to do that.
My nails were distraught. I was so I had to wait a whole another 2 weeks. I wasn't prepared for that at all. But you know, it is what it is.
Oh man. Let's learn from this tale, everyone. Let's learn from this.
Yes. Don't leave people's nails hanging, because
that's right. Because when they don't have their nails done, it just means they type faster with that bad review.
Correct. Correct. That's fact.
Oh man. Good grief, people. Well, thanks for sharing that. It was a good one. It was a good one. Mm-hmm. Appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Love it. I love the details. I love the you got into the whole story. I love it. All right.
Yeah.
So next question.
Okay.
When it comes to music and we talked a little bit about music. Maybe your playlist that you're going to blare from your speakers of your car to let everybody know they need to get out of the way. But it's funny, we keep talking about we keep talking about Ludacris on this show. It's like the last 3 weeks we've brought up Ludacris. I don't know, he's getting a lot of love right now. And fun fact, he's going to be at Apartmentalize, so he's everywhere. Come on, people.
So I've heard. So yeah, that would be amazing. Ludacris, sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so when it comes to you though, what are maybe 2 songs / artists that are your go-to when it comes to motivation, get you going, get you ready for something?
Okay, so I don't know if you can see the wall behind me.
I can.
Up at the very top right here, that's Beyonce. That is excerpt from her Cowboy Carter album. No haters in the comments. I don't want to hear it, right? But yeah, I am a diehard like Beyonce fan. I personally believe like I'm one of those types of people where if I like an album or if I like a particular song, I try to deep dive into like the history or the samples or try to figure out where everything came from. And I pretty much like almost did, I guess you could say, no disrespect to the PhDs out there, but like a dissertation paper on Cowboy Carter, like the whole history, like all of the samples, like where it came from. Like my friends that follow me on Instagram and Threads, like they know for this to be true. So my go-to song though from Cowboy Carter is like if I need to get ready, get prepared, like hype myself up, it is always going to be Beyonce Cowboy Carter. The second one, I'm actually torn between 2 Kendrick Lamar songs. So one of them is a little vulgar, so I hate to say this, but it's vulgar. It's a little raunchy. But Family Ties with Kendrick Lamar and Baby Keem, like the moment. Have you ever heard that song?
I don't think so. So I'll be honest. Until the Super Bowl, I don't really get out of my hole much. I'll just be honest. I listen to the radio, whatever's on the radio I listen to. I don't really like dive into music. I enjoy music, but I'm not like I have a type. I just listen to music. So anyways, Kendrick Lamar, I had not heard. But as soon as I heard it on the Super Bowl, first of all, I really enjoyed the imagery presented in the Super Bowl. Yeah. I know it was lost on a lot of people. And there was a lot of things I didn't fully understand initially, but then I dove into it.
Oh, good for you.
I think it's sad that people get so like hung up on stuff. But anyways, but I thought it was good. Anyways, so there you go. That was my introduction. I enjoyed it. Continue.
That's amazing. And I'm very, very, very happy. He was on the Super Bowl because like Kendrick is a phenomenal. I love him so much. I've been following him since, Money Trees. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner. He is an artist, right? Like if hip hop is dead, it is not dead with Kendrick Lamar. And I just respect him and his artistry. So yeah, I will listen to Family Ties. Unfortunately, like I said, it's a little vulgar. I'm not gonna say that it's like the most, like song for everybody. But that and Humble. So I usually flip flop, between the two. But it's like I need to get into gangster mode. You know what I mean? Like I need a boost of confidence. So in order for me to get into gangster mode, I'll throw on some Kendrick Lamar. I love Kendrick. I actually saw him in concert when he came here with SZA, and I was super excited about that. So I can put that off the checklist.
Nice. Yeah, he was just here. His tour came here like I think a few weeks ago, maybe even a week ago. I did not go. I don't go to concerts. I'm gonna be honest. I don't get out much.
Drag you like out of the house. You're going to all the concerts. We're going to go to all the things. a music nerd. Like I listen to all kinds of genres of music, just like hip hop or R&B and pop. Like I grew up like with my grandparents, and my grandfather was like a really big like 70s rock person. So
Okay.
I like grew up on of like, Led Zeppelin. I probably know I probably know just about every Led Zeppelin song because
Okay.
he loved
Nice.
them so much. I have a few original Led Zeppelin albums. There's a lot of different artists like from that era that I love, and I'm a record collector.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Part of the reason why I asked the question is first, my alums of the Boss Talk show said it would be a good
Mm-hmm.
question. Secondly, I
Okay.
love music, but I'm not somebody that like really has a type, like I said, and I like learning from other people. So I have a playlist that I'm cultivating on YouTube,
Ooh,
adding each of these to the playlist. So your songs will
okay.
end up on the playlist. I'll share it. But we're up to we're getting close to 50 songs
Oh,
on the playlist.
I
So
love that.
it's very
That's exciting.
diverse, a lot of different songs, a lot of different representation. So it's
Yeah,
cool.
discovering new music is my favorite hobby. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So it's good. So yeah, we'll put those two on there.
Okay.
Add to the mix. I think Kendrick made a rep, maybe even Beyonce made some, maybe already on there, but not those songs. So we're adding to it. It's all good.
We'll add the non-explicit version of Family Ties on there.
Okay. All right. I'll Google that. YouTube, they have all the versions. So I'll add
Right.
the lesser one. Sounds good. All right. And then final question. When it comes to your caffeinated beverage of choice,
Hmm.
what's your go-to?
It is a iced brown sugar, shaken, not stirred, oatmeal caramel drizzle with soy foam. Like I literally have it sitting right here. Starbucks
Oh
drink.
wow.
That is my
Those were a lot of words.
they were. I'm very specific about my drug of choice. Okay.
Nice.
Like I like
Okay.
it a specific way. So yeah.
No, that's good. Hey, once you find what you like, I mean, roll with it. That's the other thing. So I like coffee, but I'm pretty much a black coffee guy. And
Ooh.
but but I think it was last week somebody shared their drink and then I went and tried it. So this is again where I can get exposure to some new drinks that maybe I haven't even heard of. So it's been good.
Yes. 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 I love that for you. And if you share some, I'm happy to try it. I won't leave any like reviews or anything, but if I'm like want to, mix it up a little bit, then I'll test it out.
Okay. Well, I need to go back through and curate a list of all the different drinks that have been shared, I
Good.
think. Yeah.
You should.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
good. So the one that I tried
Mhm.
recently was a dirty chai. I'd never had a dirty
I
chai, and
was
I didn't
just
even
gonna
know what a
say
dirty chai was.
I didn't either because I used to be like a chai, latte girl, and somebody was like, "You should try a dirty chai," and I was like, "Are you messing with me? Like, is that a real
Yeah,
thing?" And
exactly.
and it is. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds weird, but I went and I tried it, and I was like, "Ooh, I like this because it gives me like just the kick it is that I need, to get through the day." So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do a dirty chai every now and
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Chai has a good flavor, the kind of spiciness, and it's good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
mind a chai.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was
Yeah.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for sharing your songs and your coffee beverage and all that. I appreciate it. And again,
Yes.
I'm going to make that list so that we have the ongoing list of
Yes.
coffees, I think, and beverages. It's caffeinated. I changed it a little bit because not everybody's a coffee person. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I
Okay.
wanted to
Okay.
be inclusive.
Yeah. For you, I appreciate that. I still haven't tried the matcha. Matcha, is it matcha?
Mm, hmm.
Like I haven't tried that yet. So I'm waiting for my bravery to kick in so that way I
So funny,
test.
funny you say that. There's a comedian, maybe you know him. He's actually from Tacoma and he moved to California. Do you know
Okay.
Kev on Stage?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so he did a thing um, on Instagram like a couple days ago about matcha, and he was
Okay.
like, "I want everybody just lean in a little bit. If you say you like matcha, but you became a matcha lover, and you're not somebody that grew up with matcha, then
Mm-hmm.
what's wrong with you?" He basically is just calling out people because matcha tastes like dirty grass or something. Like,
Does it really? Does it really? Like it's all over like my TikTok. Like everybody like, look at my and I know we're going to talk about influencing, but it's like look at my day in the life and like they go and the first thing they do is they either make their matcha or they go get it. And it just seems to
mm,
be the influencer drink. And I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not sold on it. And then like there was somebody that was like, if your matcha is full of sugar, then you're defeating the point. And I'm like, I can't agree or disagree with you because I have no idea what it
yeah.
is.
Well, even more so, it probably tastes like grass then.
So
Um,
it's sweet grass at that point. It's sweet grass at that point. If you're adding all that sugar, you're just drinking sweet grass. And I mean,
yeah,
okay, if that's what helps you get pumped up for the morning and get your day started. I hope you enjoy your sweetgrass.
yeah, for sure. But also, there's other drinks.
There are there are other options that we could
Yeah,
potentially consider. But I don't
yeah,
want to be canceled, because like I was like they were like Liz said that the sweet
mm,
grass drinking people shouldn't drink grass. That's not what I'm
yeah,
saying. I
yeah.
just,
Well, you won't get canceled for that, but maybe we'll get canceled for something else we say today. So it's all
okay,
good.
I'm prepared. I'm prepared.
Speaking of which, first of all, I
Yes.
want to dive into, thanks for answering the questions. I want to dive
Mhm.
into your history in the industry of multifamily and kind of how you got it, you made your way in here and how you got to where you are. And then we'll
Mhm.
dive into the topics we have, which at first blush, maybe they're not controversial, but I think they are. Pretty
Okay.
much all of them have their level of controversy, I think,
They
in
do.
this day and age. So
Mhm.
let's get into it
Mhm.
because I want to make sure we cover all of it.
Yes, most definitely. So I think like most people, I stumbled into this industry. I got into retail not because I was like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to work at, Swarovski, Victoria's Secret, or, Fossil, which is some of the places where I work as a visual merchandiser. But I got into that because of the recession, right? Like
Mm,
I graduated and there was literally no jobs. So I had to figure it out my junior and my senior year. And I think that my story is one of why relationships and personal branding is so important because when I got a DM on my LinkedIn, and this was like back in the day when this wasn't really even a thing,
mm,
I got a message from a regional property manager, and she was like, "Hey, like I was just looking at your LinkedIn profile," and she was like, "I think you'd be a really good fit for this job." And it was a leasing agent, and I was like, "I don't really know what that is. I don't know what they do. Like, I don't know what that entails, right?" And so I was like, "Why not?" Right? Like, I'm really tired of looking at sparkly bras all day. So why don't we just do something else with our lives? And so I did an interview and I'm speaking to the, then property manager, and she's like, tell me a little bit about your work history. And I just start telling her all of the places in which it is that I worked. And she's looking at me like I have three heads and I have no idea why. I just assumed maybe I had something in my teeth. And I was like, if I do, I'll get it out later. I'm not going to worry about it right now because it's not important. And so she pauses for a second and she was like, do you know such and such? And I was like, yeah, like we've been friends forever. We used to work together all the time. She's like, this is her old job. And I was like, are you serious? And she was like, yeah. So she called her right then and there on the spot. Like, I'm still sitting there. Right. And luckily I realized, well, they're in my teeth, right? She just knew the person in which it is that I was interviewing for their spot for. And it wasn't anything bad. She just moved on to another company, to take on a higher role. And she calls her, puts on speakerphone, and she's like, Liz, say hey. And I was like, hey girl. And she was like, oh my God, yes, absolutely. Hire her like in a heartbeat. And that's how I got my first leasing agent job. So I stayed there for a while, and I went, to another property management company, mainly because I did not want to move to Denver, Colorado to be a marketing director. Just cold is just not my jam, right? Like I like all the seasons. And so I got a good recommendation to go to another property management company, worked my way up from leasing agent to kind of like a lease up agent, making sure that all of the properties were working, the way it is in which it is that they should. And then I became a regional marketing director. And then I think, some people are experienced with this where your portfolio just sells, and mine just sold. And I didn't know that that could be a thing, right? So I left, and then I went into manufacturing. I did marketing there, in the kind of what is considered the supplier world, of the economy, if you want to say that. And so I was there for a while, and then someone gave me a phone call and was like, Chris Loebsack, he's looking for somebody to manage his social media pages. I think that you would be a great fit. And I was like, okay, sure. Like I know who he is. I've seen him on site, and I know that he's a beast of an attorney, right? So let's see. And here it is, almost 6 years later. It'll be 6 years in September. I've been here ever since. And I've moved from social media management to brand management, to some of our big partnership management, and just managing this fantastic beast of a brand. So yeah, it's been a ride. So that's my journey.
Nice. And are you guys only in the Charlotte area, like as a company, or do you go beyond?
Yeah, okay. No.
Okay.
So we are
I don't know.
Yeah, so we are based in Charlotte, right?
Sure.
That's where our quote unquote home office is, but we are in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, and we're moving to 2 more states potentially by the end of this year. So we have offices in all of those states. If you want to get North Carolina specific, it's Charlotte, Greensboro, and Raleigh. So yeah.
Okay. Nice. That's awesome. That's exciting. And are
It
you
is
guys, and the type of law is specific, is it just about apartments and like evictions and all that kind of stuff, or is it go beyond that?
Yeah, so we only do one singular thing, and that's evictions. That's all that we do. But we do service the multifamily, the single family, and the build to rent space. So that is something that we've recently added on. Of course, stipulations to it, and every case is going to be different, but we have a phenomenal client relations department. I have to give all of the respect, to the director of client relations, Michael Bell, and our director of operations, Michelle O'Brien. They just make sure that, the onboarding and the process in which it is that you have when you become a client of Loebsack and Brownlee is just top notch. It is a quality experience, which is what we call the LB Advantage. And I am just, I cannot take any of that credit, and I am not even going to try to. So yeah, so they are able to, speak to you, have a conversation, and see where you are in terms of potentially being onboarded with our firm. But, we have a multitude of departments that are willing to cater, your needs, or, to whatever it is that you need from us, most definitely. But all we do is evictions. That's it.
Interesting. Okay. But I know around here, there's such a backlog. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's tough, and that's why we have a phenomenal education department as well. Chris is a phenomenal teacher and instructor and facilitator. He actually has a class that's happening at the Mid-Georgia Apartment Association that's going to talk about fair debt collection. Jared Schmidt, he's our supervising partner. Hans Dara, Shanae August, and Michael Harrington and Jessica Lineberry. They're all partners at our firm, and they do a lot of instruction, which includes the Lunch and Learn program that we have. So we
Okay.
know that navigating landscape is like ever evolving, ever changing, right? Like it can change at the drop of a hat. So they make sure as much as possible in, conjunction with our education department, which is ran by Shiloh. If you need an update or if you need information on what's going on, you have an opportunity, as a client to have a one-on-one, conversation and just say, hey, like, I'm not looking for advice. Just give me the general guidelines and landscape on how to be able to navigate what's happening. And I think the eviction moratorium was one of those that it was just like, what do we do? Like, how do we do this? What is the CARES Act? What do we do? How do we do this? Desperate Impact has recently changed. What do we do? How do we do that? So they provide, really good insight and a level of, I don't want to say expertise, but insight into what's going on to help our clients be able to navigate, like I said, that ever evolving landscape, because it's challenging. I empathize with our on-site teams right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the laws are doing in your neck of the woods, but we just had some pretty unfortunate things pass in our legislative session just got over, and I know a lot about it because I'm on the board.
Right. It helps to be involved, right? If you're involved with your local state, and therefore National Apartment Association, then it helps provide, some of that insight. So that way, when you have some legalese that's coming down your way, you're able to understand it in a way that can help you navigate, like I said, that ever evolving landscape, because it can literally happen in a split second. It happens all the time here. If something happens in any of the states in which it is that we practice, we send out newsletters, we post things on social, specifically our LinkedIn, and we say, hey, like, this just came down the pipeline. This may be something that you may want to be aware of. It may have nothing to do with evictions. It could be a fair housing, change. It could be a lawsuit that's happened that can impact you. So it's very important to stay abreast of what's going on, in your area, and any way it is that it can impact you and your tenant or resident experience, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Do you guys get involved in the advocacy stuff going on in your government?
Yeah, so Katie Spillers, like, I have to give her all of the flowers in the world. She received one of the highest awards that you can receive, which is the Malcolm Bennett Award from the National Apartment Association for her advocacy. Beast, right? Like, she knows legislative, government affairs information, especially in her state of South Carolina, forwards and backwards, right? She is a lean, mean government affairs machine. And she's the one that actually encouraged me to get involved, because I used to not go to advocate, for DC. I used to be like, I don't know, not really my thing. I'm more focused on what's happening locally. And that's where most of my attention and my focus was. But she educated me on understanding that I can't just focus on one and not the other. So most of us will actually go to advocate, in DC, and then we'll go to the South Carolina and the North Carolina Apartment Association advocacy or legislative days when they have their conference, just so we can be involved, gain insight, but also give insight to things that are happening. Like, for instance, the appeals process and how that may vary when you go from state to state. So yeah, we're definitely involved. We don't lobby, we don't do anything of that nature, but we do make sure that we are informed and that our clients are informed of what's going on.
Nice. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like in that vein, this is how I'm going to spin it anyways.
Okay.
When it comes to you guys are very involved. You're in the industry. You're giving back to the industry. You're a quote unquote supplier. You're a law firm. You're supplying your services of law to the industry. But they're in the midst of that, and all you do in trying to build a relationship with the industry and your clients, there is this tension, supplier versus owner operator. And you wanted to dive into this, and this is where I think one of the three that we're going to cover today that they have their levels of controversy, because we don't really talk about it openly, but there is this tension that's
Mhm.
going on between suppliers and the other side, we'll say. So
Right.
yeah, what are your thoughts and feelings about this subject?
Right. So if anybody has sat on a board meeting with me or as former president of the Greater Charlotte Apartment Association Suppliers Council, I'm also the Apartment Association of North Carolina Supplier Council chair. Um, as someone who has been involved and has been on both sides, right?
Mm,
I never really liked the terminology that was used, right? And it's like, oh, well, they're on that side, right?
mm,
They're on the owner operator side, they're
right.
on the supplier side. And
Yeah.
I believe that there is visibility in vocalism and what it is that you give authority to, right? So if you
Hmm.
say, well, you're on this side and you're on that side, then that means that you're automatically creating a division between the
Yeah.
two. And what really bothers me is that we're all working towards the same goal, right? And that is
Hmm.
to provide a resident experience, right? Your
Yes.
your residents can't walk on concrete floors, they need flooring or carpet, right? Your maintenance supervisors and maintenance techs can't provide or really provide any type of attention to maintenance requests without your Chadwell supplies, your maintenance headquarters. Like these are suppliers that help with the residential experience. And what really bothers me when I speak to suppliers, not just at a local and a state but also a national level, is that they don't feel as though that they get the same attention. They don't
Mm,
feel as though they get the same type of honorary respect that
hmm.
someone would get if they were on the owner operator side, right?
Hmm.
And that really bothers me
Yeah.
because we are all doing and selling a product, right? Owner operators are doing B2C, suppliers are doing B2B most of the time,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
You're selling your product all the time. You're selling it to a potential resident. You're selling it to a potential tenant. I'm selling you a product and or a service. And there were times where I would scroll through LinkedIn and they're like, oh my gosh, why did you just pop up at my property? Or why did you just, email me and do this, this, and the third? And it's like, well, I can't tell you how many times I've gone on tour and I've gotten 10 different emails about a unit or a tour in which it is that I did, about you all specials and what it is that you all have. So I think it's kind of like being in a glass house and throwing stones. I think we have to understand that we're all in this industry to do business, and we have to provide the educational tools and resources in order for everybody to be able to succeed. And I think one of the biggest things that was kind of concerning to me was when the CAS was removed. And I understand that
Mm,
the National Apartment Association has recently put in place, educational resources, but it was a sting as somebody who sat through the cast for a week. And then when it came time for me to actually like take the test, I was told that it was gone. And nobody was like, here's an honorary, like here's, your thing, to put in your email signature. I know you didn't take the test. And, I know there's a lot of things behind the scenes as someone who has created educational seminars and webinars. I know there's a lot that goes on behind that everybody isn't privy to in terms of information. But what I will say is that it can't just be a check in the box, right? It has to be, we are committed, we are dedicated to providing suppliers with the information, the education, and the resources that they need in order to be successful. And if we are going to commit to diversity, equity, and inclusion, that has to go beyond the tenant experience. That also has
mm,
to go beyond the overall divisiveness and or lack of inclusivity when it comes to suppliers being able to have or take a stake in the apartment association membership. Now, I can
yeah.
say that with the GCAA, I do not have that issue. I have to give all of the credit in the world to the GCAA. I'm sit on the Education Foundation board, and typically you cannot be a board president or chair, but I'm able to be a board president president or chair for the Education Foundation come next year, right? So I'll be one of the first people to be able to do that. But it took someone to say, who are we excluding? Who are we not allowing to be in the room? And I think when we're talking about, and again, we are committed to being inclusive, we also have to think of the ways that we may be shunning our suppliers out from being able to have a voice, and for them to be able to say, this is what's going on with me, and this is what's going on and how the economy is impacting me, which is why you're not getting my volunteer hours and or sponsorships. So I think a lot can be, communicated, and we could have a whole conversation about this for the rest of this podcast, but I do think that there's some work that needs to be done.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
Mhm.
And I think also looking at suppliers as just a checkbook versus a resource of information,
Right.
and an expert at what they provide.
Right. Right.
Because so often it's like they just come to us when they have something to finance or a donation they want or whatever. And it's like, that we do this for a living and we know
Yes.
a lot about this topic, and we
Yes.
want to know from your perspective about this topic too. But that means we got to
Right.
work together to make the product even better, because you're not going to, for instance, you're not going to create the product we created, right? Like, you're never going to do
Right.
that. But you
Right.
use it,
Right.
and it can be better.
Correct. And I think like I've submitted for speaking sessions, and the response it is that I've gotten back, and they will remain nameless, right? But what is that I've gotten back is like, well, you're a supplier. And I'm like, does that mean that I don't understand how to create a diversity strategy for organizations? I've done it for multiple organizations. Does that mean that I don't understand like how to market a product or a service? Like, I'm not asking to speak about, something that I know nothing about, that I have no experience in. I literally have 3 certifications in diversity, equity, inclusion, one of them being from the Equal Opportunity Commission. And the other 2, I have 2 different social media and digital marketing, including one of them is from Harvard, right? And it's like, so I'm not qualified to talk about, marketing and digital because I'm not on the owner operator side. And again, I think that's where that bias literally comes into play, where we could do a little bit better at looking at the people, what it is that they have to offer, and what other qualifications outside of experience can really assist in, educating the few or the mass. That's just me. That's my soapbox.
Yeah. And just in general, get away from like, you get access by paying for everything. Like, I mean, pay to play is old, man. And it doesn't mean you're the best product. It just means you have the deepest pockets for some reason, right?
Correct.
Like,
Right.
don't we want the best to rise to the top, not just who can pay for it? Like,
yeah, I mean, as state supplier council president, even when I was, with GCAA, I tried to think of so many different ways that were just like cost-effective options for small, medium, and large businesses in order for them to be able to get some form of visibility, right? Like, we were providing classes, we were bringing regionals in, and we were providing training opportunities and saying, this is how you can operate, this is how you can navigate in this network, and here's a way in order for you to be able to get, visibility. So again, it goes back to me saying, like, we can critique all day long, but until we're able to provide solutions to the problem, it's kind of hard, to be, the pot calling the kettle black, right? Like, we have to find ways to, not just critique, but also provide solutions to advance our suppliers forward, because then they may be more willing to give, a dime or a dollar. But if I'm constantly giving dollars and I'm not getting trackable, results, but I'm also not being able to be in a room in which it is that I'm investing in, it makes the sell a little bit harder, especially for a group of people when all they do is sell, right? So, you have to sell the seller.
yeah. Well, that segues right into the next topic, I feel, which is authenticity in marketing.
Yes.
Again, you can pay for access.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you're the best. You can pay people to represent your company, but
Right.
they may never have used that product before. They just
Right.
have an audience, or they have an audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you said the authenticity in marketing is something people, and I agree, are looking for. They
Yes.
want real users of products
Mm-hmm.
saying how it works.
Right.
And then, so you called it the rise of the de-influencer.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
want to unpack that for us?
Oh yeah, most definitely. So this came across my TikTok feed, right? And there was this, chick, she's standing in her apartment and she has like a bunch of products in her hand and she's like, I'm here to de-influence you. And I was like, what? Now, if you scroll through TikTok, you get ads all the time, especially when it comes to, for whatever reason, Korean skincare is the new thing where it's just like, this got rid of my hyperpigmentation, this made my skin glow. And this may be true, right? Like, I'm not saying that they're false, but
Sure.
I paid extra attention to her because I could tell there was no filters used. She's going through, like, she's showing the receipts, right? She's like, this Roomba, vacuum cleaner, or this vacuum cleaner it is that you have, trash, right? Like, this is the one in which it is that I recommend, right? And she's showing, right? Like, it wouldn't pick up anything, it wouldn't do anything, right? And she'll be like, this lotion smelled phenomenal, right? Like, I got so many compliments on it, blah, 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 blah. This one, la poubelle, trash. Like, don't use it, don't ever. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, is this a thing? Like, where did this come from? And more specifically, why did my algorithm think that I needed to see this? Probably because I have a bunch of stuff sitting in my TikTok cart and I have not checked out yet, right? So it's maybe like, let me show you what's real and what's fake so you can check out. So I did research into the de-influencer hashtag, and I'm going to review to my notes. So I'm sorry if I'm not looking at you.
It's all good.
But the influencer hashtag has amassed over a billion talk. A billion. That's a lot. And when I was doing, when I was doing more research, it come to find out is that millennials and Gen Z have always been into authentic marketing, right? They've always been into value-based marketing, right? So if you're selling a product or a service, how does it align with me and my values? If I am concerned about the environment, is your packaging eco-friendly? What products did you use to make said product? And was it considerate of the environment? Let's look at Target, right? Another controversial topic. They said that they were going to kind of segue or completely segue away from DE&I strategies, and they have plummeted, right? And that just goes to show that people are willing to shop or not shop wherever it is that crossover into their values. So you could say all day long, I shop at Target. You can be Kim Kardashian or whoever all day long and say, this is where I shop and this is what I love. People don't care. They want to see you actually use the product. They want you to be honest. They want you to be truthful. And they also want you to be transparent. And I think that for me, like, I'm not mad at it. I don't want someone to sell me something, especially in the day of when consumerism budgets are so tight, which I also think is the cause of the cultural shift. I think that when people are watching their dollars now more than ever, we don't have time to go out and buy a $200 vacuum that is not going to work, right? We want to buy a $200 vacuum that you said was going to work, that you said was going to be a value add, and you show me what actually happened with it on a regular, basis. And you're not paying someone just to say, say and show that this vacuum, worked. As someone who worked in manufacturing and product marketing, show this vacuum and it worked in these very specific, like controlled environments, right? Like, I don't know if you've seen how food commercials are made, but they'll show
with glue and stuff.
Yeah, like, you put the hamburger in this and it's like, it looks this big, and then you get it and it's like this big,
Never
so a lot
close.
yeah, nowhere near close, and it's like, why, and if you're spending all of this money, then you would like to get what it is that you saw. We're beyond the mad marketing era where people are just selling, a hope and a dream. We want the actual product. We want the real thing. And I think the rise of the de-influencer is more about trust. It's not just about, I just want to, be the anti-marketer. No, like, I want to build trust. I want you to believe in what it is that I'm selling or the product in which it is that I'm servicing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Not just creating a fake sense of expertise or somebody that's out there that just has a following and somebody who's like, hey, use my product.
Right.
And say you love it and I'll give you money.
Yeah. I mean, like, for instance, I recently spoke at a conference. It was a property management conference. And I asked them, I was like, where do you think people go to go look for an apartment? And I got, Zillow's, Google, apartments.com. And I was like, you're all wrong. And I was like, everybody take out your phone and I want you to search your property on TikTok if you have it downloaded on your phone. And the way people's mouths dropped because they didn't know that their properties were being reviewed on TikTok. I'm like, the advertising is no longer in your hands, right? Like, you showing these pretty 3D models, you showing, like, just the model, home in which it is that it looks. Nobody cares. Nobody's going there anymore. Nobody's looking there anymore. I'm not saying it's completely null and void, but I will say it is a mass drop from what it used to be. And one of the properties had a bunch of scandals that they thought that they had kind of like silenced. And I was like, oh no, you got 220,000 views on this scandal that happened a couple of weeks ago on TikTok. And the internet is undefeated. It is forever, right? So it's like, you might as well lean into what is currently happening and how people are currently shopping for your product, which are these apartments, right? People want to see the real deal. Don't just show a model. Bring in like a guest chef and have him actually cook in your kitchen. Do, like, if you're going to do a Taco Tuesday, do a Taco Tuesday that way, right? Like, bring in some residents, have them RSVP, host a Taco Tuesday in your model, and show people cooking, or show him cooking or her cooking or them cooking in the kitchen. So that way you can show like it's functional, right? Because as
what's
someone
it like to live in there?
Yeah, as someone who lives with the chef, he has turned down multiple places because he's like, I want a gas stove, right? And they're like, no, like, the electric stove, this particular model works just as good. It's like, okay, well, show me, and if he could scroll through his social media feed and see someone that 9 times out of 10 comes across his feed anyway, cooking in your model or cooking in your kitchen, again, you're de-influencing, you're building that trust with somebody that already has a mass following, and you're including your residents. Like, nobody cares about things being staged. I can't tell you how many times I've seen models and I'm like, I don't see a crib. I don't see a playpen. I don't see, doggy treats or a doggy bed. And I have no idea where it's going to go. Right. But this furniture is super pretty and it's staged very nicely.
Yeah.
But
well, and for you, and for you being a fashion person, show you the closet. Show me the closet. Show me like where my shoes, and my purses and my handbags and my jewelry is gonna go. Like, I was ranting with a friend of mine and we were talking about going into the hotel. And I said, I will forever choose Marriott for this specific reason. Is I went inside of a Marriott and they had a little triangle cut out in the shower. And I was like, oh my God, now I don't have to worry about, dying in the shower because I'm trying to shave my legs. Somebody thought enough of me and all the ladies out there to put this little triangle in the shower so that way they could shave their legs safely, right? Was it just a place to put your foot? Like,
this, you just put your foot, and you're not trying to, pretzel yourself to shave your legs, right? Like, and it was funny because she was like, yeah, I just try to go as long as I can without, so that way I don't have to worry about shaving. I'm like, That's not fair. You should be
Yeah.
able to shave your legs safely. So Marriott, use that hashtag. You're more than welcome to use it. Shave your legs safely because you got
Yeah.
that little stool.
Well, and you talked a lot about the people posting on like TikTok, right? And
Mhm.
they're probably posting maybe good, maybe also bad, like both and.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you work at a community and they're talking about you, maybe just go
Mhm.
talk to that resident and be like, "Hey, off
Mhm.
camera, let's
Yeah.
discuss some of the things you brought up." And then
Mhm.
maybe you'll get to a point where they then want to go, "Oh, let's do a post together about
Right.
how we came to a conclusion or fixed this
Right.
or made it better or whatever." Like,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Most
Like,
definitely. There's so many different ways that you can go about it that you can bring visibility to your communities, and suppliers can do the same thing as well. Like, you are the influencer. As a supplier, you are the influencer. You have to believe in your brand as much as possible. And there are some pure rock stars that are out here that are suppliers that, like, if you think of them, you think of their brand. And most of the time, they don't even like sell it 24/7, right? They're
mm,
just authentically them and whomever it is that they are. And one of the people I immediately think of is like Dana. She's with BGSF.
mm,
She is a literal like influencer, right? Like, she's been in magazines. She has, I can't tell you how many followers on TikTok, but it's like, you may not think of recruitment and hiring when it comes to Dana, right? But you know Dana and who she is. And it just may end up coming up in conversation, in an authentic conversation about a beauty hack that she may have shared. So I
mm,
think when you're talking about, and you just have your own authentic brand that's out there, and you're personalizing it on your social media platforms, the rest of it will come, right? Like, you
yeah,
don't always need to talk about your product or your service. Just talk about you and who you are, so that way people can learn about you and who you are before they decide to get into business with you. The rest of the conversation and the rest of the sales will come.
absolutely will. Yeah,
Mhm.
agree. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a topic I tend to agree with, and like I get I get kind of the heebie-jeebies when it comes to people that like get approached to represent products when they
Yeah.
never used it before, and all of a sudden they're a spokesperson for it. I'm like,
It's like,
why?
really? Really? Like, are you sure? Right? That's like me talking about John Deere lawnmowers. I don't know nothing about Deere lawnmowers. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
wouldn't even know like how to turn one on. You know,
right.
so it would be a little crazy if I'm like talking about, buy this John Deere lawnmower. That would be a little
Buy
weird.
this buy this thing because I wore a T-shirt that said to like their
Right,
logo or something. I don't know. Like, okay, sure,
right,
yeah, let's
right,
do that.
right. Yeah. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
no, that's not gonna happen, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, I think
yeah.
more
All
authentic we
right.
can.
All right. So speaking of fashion, oh, you're breaking up. Um, the final topic at hand is that of fashion, lipstick and hemlines, and how this can be a determining factor in where we're at with our economy. So I literally know
Yes,
nothing about fashion. So you're gonna have to walk me through this, and maybe others, but
yes,
I am interested in understanding how there is a correlation between the two.
yes. So I again am a nerd, again a fashion nerd, and people were talking about, trends and where it is that we are in fashion. And one of the things that people were looking at was in the beauty world, which I am not, a subscriber of, right? Like, I stick to my whatever, everyday whatever. But when it came to fashion, they were talking about hemlines, and how when the economy is doing relatively well, the shorter the hemline, the brighter the lipstick. But when the economy is not doing well, then the longer the hemline, the more conservative the dress, quote unquote, the less red lipstick you see. And so as a nerd, I was like, I'm going to deep dive into this. I want to see where this came from. So again, I'm going to refer to my notes, right? Because I wrote it down. I got the receipts. So the hemline index. It is a popular theory suggesting that hemlines in women's clothing specifically, particularly skirts, can indicate the health of the economy. The basic idea is that the shorter the hemline, like the mini skirt in the 1960s, are seen as a sign of a thriving economy, while longer hemlines, like those during the Great Depression, are seen as a sign of an economic downturn, right? So what it says is that, it has a tendency to impact consumer confidence and also fashion trends and options and discretionary income. So the less income it is that you have a tendency to kind of repeat fashion, wear the same things over and over again. And this also had to do with during the Great Depression, they didn't have a lot of access to fabric or material. So you could only use like so much material to make so many items. So it was like this one skirt, had to be able to stretch across multiple, avenues. Kind of like the same thing if you've ever seen like fashion hacks from back in the day in the 50s, women would wear pantyhose, but if they couldn't afford it, they would get eyeliner and they would draw a line on the back of their leg to make it appear as though that they had pantyhose on because they couldn't afford pantyhose, right? So I was like, this is so interesting. Like my mind was like blown away. So it says that in downturns, fashion becomes conservative and practical, while longer skirts reflecting modesty and cost consciousness. So fashion also, of course, tracks cultural mood, which correlates loosely to economic conditions. So while skirts don't drive necessarily the GDP, I am not saying that because I am not an economist, but shifts in hemlines might mirror the collective philosophy tied to the economy. So that's the hemline index.
Okay, so
isn't that interesting?
Yes, and so where are we at? What is the fashion of the day, and where are we headed with the fashion?
Right. So if you look at, I am currently like obsessed with the Ralph Lauren and Gucci 2025-2026 fall winter runway show. I am obsessed with it right now. And if you look, you don't have to take my word for it, but if you look, all of the skirts are pretty much long. They are not short. They are long. There's a lot more material, even for some of the summer fashion. Chloe, which is a brand that I didn't really pay that much attention to, but I did because of Doechii. She like really like came to life during, fashion week. She wore like a very beautiful, like Chloe, think boho, like type outfit, very flowy material. There's a lot more material being shown and a lot more what you can call conservative old money. You may have heard that term, outfitting, where we see a lot more jackets, we see a lot more layering. So this just means that we're not just only conservative in our dollars, but we're also conservative in our fashion. So that's kind of what, if you were to take this index and this theory, right, which of course has some bias to it, right? But if you take this just for giggles and you just use it as a way to kind of like get a preview into the economy, that may give us an idea into the future where our economy is and maybe even where it's headed. Breaking news.
And maybe like the fashion people pay attention to this, knowing what people are going to want to wear during times like that.
Correct.
So
yeah.
They're paying attention to the trends and all that, and just the economy and everything, and like the effect of the pending tariffs or not tariffs or whatever the heck's going on tomorrow. I don't know, because it changes every 5 minutes.
Right.
But,
right. Yeah, that's a whole other segment, another day. But I will say that the same thing is with the lipstick index. So it says it's also an informal economic indicator that suggests cosmetic sales, especially lipstick, tend to rise during economic downturns. This was coined by Leonard Lauder, the chairman of Estee Lauder, conveniently, right, during the early 2000s recession. And basically, he observed that when consumers cut back on big ticket items like luxury bags or clothes, they still indulge in small luxuries like lipstick. And this is also how Chanel, the perfume, was able to continue to grow, because the Chanel perfume, while people weren't necessarily always able to have access to clean water to take a shower or whatnot, the Chanel, specifically Chanel No. 5, smells like fresh. It smells like a clean soap. So oftentimes people would indulge in that regardless of what was going on, just to kind of keep that fresh, smelling appeal. So they're saying that the lipstick index captures discretionary spending behavior and downturns. And some data even showed that there was a spike in cosmetic sales during the 2001 recession and post 9/11, which kind of supports the idea. Just saying.
There you go.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Fashion and economy.
I'm gonna start following all things fashion now. Just to nerd out on.
There you go. I would love to dress you in some Ralph Lauren. I'm telling you, you would look phenomenal.
You know what? Maybe I need some fashion help going into Apartmentalize. May need a
There
talk.
You go. Especially for Vegas. You gotta be fully decked out in Vegas, most definitely.
I have no idea what a t-shirt, right? Like this. Yep.
I mean, it is probably going to be like over 90 degrees because it's going to be June. So it's going to be a little bit of fashion challenge, but I think it's doable. I think.
Yes. But let's be serious. We're going to be inside and air conditioning the whole time. So it's not like we're walking around in 100 degrees.
Right. Yes. And I also have like 3 portable fans. So I'm just hoping TSA doesn't confiscate them. I need my portable fans.
That's funny. Well, first of all, excited to see you. You're going to Apartmentalize, right? Yep. And I believe you're signed up for Boss Brunch.
I am. Yes, I am. I'm going to be at the Podcast Palooza. I'm also a NAA. I'm also an NAA Excellence Awards DE&I finalist. So nice. fingers crossed. So we'll see. But it's just an honor for the work to be recognized, and I will continue to do the work regardless of what happens. But shout out to all of the Excellence Award finalists and best of luck to them.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I know a few people that are nominated. Our association, our affiliate, is in the running for affiliate of the year in our size and such. And then we have a person that is nominated that was on Boss Talks that is headed to Vegas to potentially win as well. So we're going to be rooting for her as well. So that'll be awesome. But super excited to see you soon, and anybody else that's watching that we'll see soon, like Jen, who's been your cheerleader through this episode and also was the one that recommended you, and super glad that we linked up and made it happen.
I love Jen. She's funny. Yeah, she's amazing. Hi, Jen.
All right. Well, just like Liz jumped in onto Boss Talks and was a guest and shared her passions and her history in the industry, I want more of you out there to represent your boss selves here on Boss Talks. So if you want to be a guest, reach out to me and we'll make it happen. And I like to showcase and give a platform and voice to everybody, and not just those that quote unquote deserve it because they have a title. So if you want to be on here and share some of your passions with the world, let's do it. We'll make it happen. So thanks for watching today, and we'll see you guys later.
Thank you.